tempos. Simplesmente, o ultramar português pode ser vítima de assaltos, mas não está em venda.
Two colors, green and red, a strange sphere in the middle. At first glance, Portugal's flag seems harmless, even noble. But what if I told you this flag was born in betrayal, carried across oceans to enslave millions, and later raised by a dictator to silence his people? What if every symbol stitched into its fabric hides centuries of conquest, empire, and repression? This is not just the story of Portugal's flag. It is the story of how a small nation painted the world red and green with the blood of others. Before we begin, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel to support our community. Portugal's flag is unlike any other. Its colors, green and red, were not medieval traditions, but products of revolution, war, and political manipulation. Its central emblem, the armillary sphere and royal shield, ties directly to the Age of Discovery, when Portuguese caravels sailed to Africa, Asia, and Brazil. To some, it represents glory. To others, slavery, dictatorship, and forgotten crimes. And here lies the paradox. The flag was meant to unify Portugal after centuries of upheaval. Instead, it became a battlefield of memory, power, and control. But to understand why this flag is so haunted, we must go back to when Portugal was a kingdom carving the world in two. In 1415, Portugal captured Ceuta in North Africa. It was the first conquest of Europe's Age of Discovery. Soon, Portuguese ships carried banners bearing the cross of the Order of Christ, a blood-red cross later stitched into countless flags. Under these banners, explorers like Vasco da Gama and Pedro Álvares Cabral sailed to India, Brazil, and beyond. But behind the romantic tales was a darker truth. In 1444, the first shipment of enslaved Africans arrived in Lagos, Portugal, under Portuguese flags. By the 16th century, Portuguese ships had transported over 1 million enslaved Africans to the Americas. The flag became a brand marking forts along the African coast, sugar plantations in Brazil, and colonies in Asia. A chilling letter from King João III in 1536, preserved in the Torre do Tombo archives, orders governors in Brazil, "Raise the royal flag in every settlement, that all may know these lands are ours, under God and the crown. Let those who resist be punished without mercy." The flag was not a symbol of unity, it was a declaration of ownership. By the 17th century, Portugal's empire was under siege. The Dutch and English attacked its colonies. In 1580, Portugal itself fell under Spanish control in the Iberian Union. The flag changed repeatedly, from royal crests to hybrid Spanish-Portuguese banners. Each change reflected not freedom, but who controlled the nation. When independence was restored in 1640, the flag returned to royal symbolism. But the cracks remained. Portugal's glory was built on colonies, and colonies were built on blood. The Inquisition also marched under the flag, burning heretics in Lisbon squares, the red and gold banners flying high. The flag promised faith and empire. But in the streets, it promised only obedience or fire. The 19th century shattered the old order. In 1820, a liberal revolution demanded a constitution. In 1822, Brazil declared independence, taking much of Portugal's wealth with it. Civil wars erupted between royalists and liberals, each side waving different versions of the flag. Finally, by the late 1800s, the monarchy's flag, blue and white with the royal coat of arms, stood for a fading empire. But resentment grew. The monarchy was seen as corrupt, weak, and tied to colonial brutality in Africa. Secret Republican pamphlets from 1890, discovered in Porto, declared, "The blue and white flag is stained by monarchy's cowardice. We shall raise red for the blood of patriots, green for hope, and break the chains of kings. The monarchy was doomed. On October 5, 1910, the monarchy fell. Portugal became a republic. The royal blue and white flag was burned in Lisbon streets. In its place rose a new flag, red for revolution and sacrifice green for hope and renewal, though some whisper it was chosen because green was linked to the Prophet Muhammad, symbolizing Portugal's colonial dominance over Muslim lands. At the center, the armillary sphere of discovery, and the royal shield, now rebranded as the People's. But the Republic quickly descended into chaos, coups, assassinations, and economic collapse. The red and green flag, meant to unite, became a banner of instability. The monarchy's flag had promised empire. The Republic's flag promised hope. Both delivered blood. In 1926, a military coup ended the fragile republic. Soon after, Antonio de Oliveira Salazar rose to power, creating the Estado Novo dictatorship, 1933 to 1974. Salazar turned the red and green flag into a tool of control. Schools forced children to salute it daily. Propaganda posters showed peasants and soldiers under the flag, with slogans like "Tudo pela nação, nada contra a nação," everything for the nation, nothing against the nation. Police reports from the PIDE, secret police, show strict orders. Anyone caught defiling or mocking the national flag faced imprisonment or torture. Under this flag, Salazar waged brutal colonial wars in Angola, Mozambique, and Guinea-Bissau, costing hundreds of thousands of lives. Soldiers marched into African villages under the red and green banner, proclaiming Portugal's eternal empire. To the dictator, the flag was not a symbol of freedom. It was a chain, binding millions to a dream of empire long turned to dust. On April 25, 1974, tanks rolled into Lisbon. Soldiers placed red carnations in their rifles, and the people rose up. The dictatorship collapsed overnight. The same flag, once used by Salazar, now flew as a symbol of liberation. Crowds cheered it in the streets. But the paradox remained. Could a flag drenched in dictatorship also symbolize freedom? Portugal abandoned its colonies within a year. Angola, Mozambique, Cape Verde, Guinea-Bissau, and São Tomé all gained independence. The flag that had once enslaved them was finally lowered. Yet even today, the green and red fly proudly. Football victories, Eurovision, parades, all under the same cloth that once stood for conquest, slavery, and dictatorship. The Portuguese flag is a mirror of the nation itself, born in conquest, reforged in blood, claimed by both dictators and revolutionaries. Its green and red do not just mean hope and sacrifice. They mean empire and repression. They mean control and revolt. They mean a nation forever wrestling with its past. This is the dark paradox of Portugal's flag. To wave it is to celebrate a nation, but to know its history is to confront the blood that built it, green and red. To most, they are colors of pride, but to history, they are colors of empire, chains, and blood. So the question lingers. Can a flag built on conquest ever truly represent freedom? Or does every wave of Portugal's banner remind us that behind every nation's glory lies a shadow?